So I've been listening to this YouTuber. His name is Babbling Loner. And he's part of the Doomer sphere, and I don't really have much experience with the YouTube Doomer sphere. I've seen a bunch of Doomer stuff. I know all the lingo, but I've never really watched one of these Doomer YouTubers before. And this guy is pretty good, 27 years old. He talks about how he never had a girlfriend, and I like the content. I must have started around a week ago. I ended up watching every single one of his videos, and I'm not actually watching it most of the time. I'm reading something, like the news or 4chan, and as I'm scrolling, I got him playing, and he's a good storyteller, makes good background noise, and I relate a lot to what he's talking about in his videos. But I want you to listen to this clip from his video, I Wish I Had a Girlfriend.
Yeah, I've had coitus, but I've had very little coitus. I don't want you guys to misinterpret it. I've had very little coitus, and it's been very low quality women. Women I'm not even proud of. Women that I wish I would have just not partook in coitus with. A part of me just wishes I was a virgin. I really do. Like, the women that I had coitus with were so low ranking, F tier, F grade, that I'd rather have just not even done it. But I was just a horny young man. And now that my testosterone is beginning to dip, I'm able to think a little bit more clearly using my brain and not my other head. And, I do kind of regret, partaking in coitus with those women. Because I don't even feel like they were worthy of me. I know that sounds cope.
And he talks about that he's had lays and with multiple women, apparently. And the way he says it, the way he talks about multiple women, he's had coitus with women, his exact words. I think it's more than one. It's got to be probably 3, maybe even more than 3. I feel like if I just think that he'd be using different language if it was more than 2. If it was just 2 women, I think it was 3 and up. And he's always sad he never had a girlfriend. And one of the things he said in another video is that he wishes that he had a girlfriend, because if he did, whenever he's feeling down, he can remember about the good times they had together, that date that they went on, and he doesn't have that. But if you ask me, you got something better than that. You look at the time that you had sex, and the way you talk about it, I don't think you were paying for it. This isn't an escort situation here. You got it for free, and you don't talk about how you got it for free, which I feel is disingenuous to you. And I want to know, what kind of women are these? How did this come about that you had the coitus, you got the lays? You're a slayer, by definition. To be a slayer, you have sex with a woman for free. She's up for it. You do it. You're a Chadriguez. It's the only way to explain it. And a lot of guys who never got a girl before, they'll tell you, even you think she's the worst looking girl in the area, she can get Chad. She can get a Chad light. It's fierce out there. And especially when it comes to a non-commitment kind of situation, a one-night stand. And this is what that guy got. This is what Babbling Loner got. It's a no strings attached NSA encounter. And I think it's safe to say that in the 21st century, 2025, Guys aren't getting that regularly. You gotta be Chad to get that. If a guy wants to get a lay, they build up to it in a relationship with a girlfriend. They're not getting an SA. And I think there's another side to this guy, Babbling Loner. He talks about he's been to parties, he swag maxed, sneakers, haircut, the clothes. And he's got a social circle. He's got Instagram. He's got social media, Facebook. And he's got a bunch of girls on there. So I'm wondering, how did these slays come about? Was it from a DM? Some chatting a girl up? I'm not Gen Z, I'm a millennial, but I know the words. So you're rizzing up a girl on Facebook and you meet up. I wouldn't know how it works because it never happened for me. I never had a girlfriend, and I never got a lay. I had to escort sell. And we all know that doesn't count. And that's a topic for another video. But Babbling Loner, the way he describes it, he got it for free. And I want to know how. Because you keep talking about how you never had a girlfriend. But you're getting laid for free. And you describe it as, you got a funny way of saying it, describing the girls. The girls are grade Z cheeks, but you never quantify what that means. So what are grade Z cheeks? Are they older than you? Are they double your age? Old enough to be your mom? Old enough to be your grandmother? Are they really fat? Is it a combination of both? Is it an ethnicity you're not too attracted to? So what kind of girls you like, and these aren't the kind of girls you'd pick, but why are they choosing you? You were chosen. You can't deny that. You were selected by these girls, and you got to get your freak on. And I want to know, what's the circumstances of that? Your house, how old were you when this happened? Because I think that the impression I'm getting is that it's been multiple encounters over multiple years. So you're 27, so I'd say maybe all of these were in the past 7 years. I'm just assuming you went through high school with nothing. And I've got no way to prove that. I don't know your backstory. Really, I listened to all your videos, but I don't really know. I know you said you've had channels before. I'm new to the Doomer sphere, and I check the comments, and people call you Tajana sometime, or Tahana, and I don't know anything about that content. So maybe you talk about it there. But I'd like for you to talk about it on the main channel too. Because as long as you continue to not address this, I'm going to think that you're Chadriguez. I really do. So you're 27, you're Gen Z, and you grew up in the world of smartphones. When you were a teenager, you're immersed in social media. Everyone is on social media, or at least everyone trying to be popular and trying to fit in. And you weren't excluded from that. You had your Facebook, you had your Instagram, you're watching stories, you're tracking all these girls that are in your orbit, or that you're orbiting, but part of the same solar system. You're following them. Now, when I was a kid, this was all brand new, this stuff, and the rich kids had it, but I never got into it. And as I got older, it became more common. I never used this stuff. I had no reason to. But the fact that you have an active presence on social media, that you continue to have it, is telling me that you have a social circle. You have a reason to be on social media. And I think the reason is because you're a Chadriguez. That's why you feel so good on there. I never had a reason to be on there, so I'm not. And let's talk about some of these experiences that Babbling Loner talks about. And start with the Ashley. So Ashley is the goth girl, and Babbling Loner claims that in the first high school he went to, he was in a class with this goth girl, and he was doing whatever he could to get her. And they were seated right next to each other because of the names were alphabetical order. So that's how the teacher did it. He was sitting next to her, tries to get to know her. She's cold with him. Every now and then she acts a little friendly, but she's not interested. I want to know, why's it gotta be Ashley? You got a whole school full of girls. It's one class, you're sitting next to this girl. This isn't a regular girl. This is a goth girl. And goth girls have always been popular. It's been a fantasy for lots of men to get a goth girl. So something I think it's as far back as the 80s. They make movies. They have goths back then. Johnny Depp was a goth. Edward Scissorhands. There were all these goth films, goth bands, goth music. It's kind of like a punk rock. I don't listen to it. I don't know much about it. They got the aesthetic. They wear all black, the freaky hair, and But yeah, this goth has been a desirable type for a long time, to the point that it's cemented in Hollywood. And you're describing yourself as a fat kid in high school who doesn't know how to dress, buzz cut, so you're pretty much bald. And the way you describe it, you don't got the bones to carry a buzz cut. So what makes you think you have a chance with a goth girl? A goth girl drives boys crazy. Lots of them. It's not I don't know what you're talking about. One time you said that the girl who plays video games. Is that Ashley too? I think you mentioned that in another video. And I don't know what kind of logic that is, but the fact that, well, we'll say that most girls don't like video games, or if they play video games, it doesn't really overlap with the kind of video games that guys like, which more and more is not true. Girls play Call of Duty, Fortnite, competitive games, ranked games, but that's something that's more common now. It was happening back then too. Well, let's just go with the stereotype that girls don't like video games. And the fact that a girl likes a video game, that makes her more desirable. It doesn't make her less. And a lot of chads, a lot of guys, they fantasize about a girl who's into the same things they are. So that's not something that... It's not she's the type to give a nerd a chance. She's the type to give an ugly guy a chance because they like the same things. That was never the case. And there was no reason to think that, ever. Even back then. So, you're targeting Ashley, the goth girl. She's a very popular girl in high school. There's all these guys that you claim been with her, half the school. I know it's exaggeration, but that means that she's popular. Everyone knows her, and you think you had a chance. And I think that shows that you've got some unrealistic expectations. You've got some unrealistic standards for the kind of woman you talk about. And you never talked about approaching a normal girl. Never. Let's talk about the other girl. Because there's only 2 girls you've named at all your videos. And that's Alejandra. She's 22 years old. And you were 17 when you met her. You're both working at the Dollar Tree. But what kind of 22-year-old is going to date a 17-year-old? The age gap is insane. It's night and day, the kind of person. It's a 17-year-old with a 22. Does that? And a lot of places in this country and in the world, that's illegal. I don't know what you were thinking with that. that you're 17 and the 22 year, and you're talking about she's treating you like little bro compared to the other guys at the job, compared to some of the Chadriguez customers that come in. You are little bro. You're a kid. You're a minor. She's 22. There's a whole world of difference between 17 and 22. It's only 5 years, but well, if you're doing the meta in life, then you graduated college at 22, and you're doing your first serious job or applying for it at 22. 17, you're still a kid. So I don't know what you're thinking. You're gonna get the 22-year-old, and this is an experienced woman, like, saying that all the guys are chatting her up, that she's into thugs, she's into the, I don't know how you describe, I'm not into that culture, so I don't know how you get into it. Pookie. I don't know what a pookie is, so you keep saying that. But yeah, this is an experienced, mature woman. That doesn't make sense that you thought that you could date her as a 17-year-old. You said you were fat in high school too, so that you said that she's a baddie. That doesn't make any sense. You say you're fat now, so what kind of girls you think are lower than you? Because you always say that they're lower than my look. They're not my looks match. They're lower, but they still wouldn't take you. And I don't know. And in the thumbnail for the video of Ashley, you got the image of a fat Mexican kid. And I'm guessing that's how you see yourself or saw yourself as back then. So whenever does a fat Mexican kid date a hot goth girl? Hot popular goth, when does that ever happen? So the whole thing didn't make any sense. We're not learning anything hearing you talk about that experience, because it never should have happened to begin with. That was always going to be a no. There's never any hope there. And I want to get into something that, listening to your videos, I feel that there's a kind of arrogance sometimes when you talk about girls. Say that there's lots of girls beneath you that you know that are on your socials. And I'm curious to know, what number do you see yourself as? So a couple questions. From 1 to 10, what do you think you are? And what do you think you were at your prime, your peak? So whatever age that was. Because we're talking about how there's this girl that disgusts you. And the reason why she disgusts you is because you say she's got no chin. She's deformed. And you're mad because you click on her story and it's a little video about Henry Cavill. She wants to date Henry Cavill. A lot of girls have celebrity crushes that they're not serious about. It's just a fantasy. Just play. But that made you angry. But you got the girl added. You're watching this. I don't know how social media. Don't you gotta have them added to watch the story? It's not something that you just do if you're not following. But she's letting you on her social media, and she's so disgusting to you. But you're still following her, and I think that if you could, you'd hit it, and then afterwards, another one of your slays, and then you're complaining about the kind of girls you got. But you get slays. You don't get a girlfriend, but you get slays. And to a lot of guys, it's better. It's better if they could get slays. A lot of guys wish they could just get a slay without being in a relationship, and you did. That's distinguishing. It's not a forever alone love shy. You describe yourself as a love shy. First of all, I don't even know where you're getting these terms. Because I'm a millennial, but this love shy stuff was invented by boomers, Gen X. That's in the 90s. That's the OG. So, I never heard of a love shy that gets lays, that gets it for free. And you did. And let's talk about your situation right now. So you're in Mexico, and I don't really. I didn't really hear all the story, but from what I understand, your father passed away a year ago, and you're at your father left you a house and land in Mexico. So you've got your own place, and you're bilingual from Los Angeles, fluent in English and Spanish. You got 2 passports, and I'm wondering, you can't get a poor Mexican girl. You can't get a Mexican girl that would want to marry an American, that would want to be with an American, because to me, you've got a lot to bring to the table. You can teach English. You can make her an American. I thought that a lot of Mexicans, they want to become American citizens. You got that. So you can't get a girlfriend through that. You can't passport backs. You're already living in another country. Those poor Mexican girls, they're too disgusted to be with you. A lot of guys, they wish they had their own place, and their own house, their own land. And from what you described, this isn't an apartment. This is a street, detached house, privacy, own place to yourself. You got land for your dogs to run around. So you got a decent setup. And I know that you're working on getting back to Los Angeles, which is probably a good idea, because it doesn't sound like you're in the most happening part of Mexico, but I just find it really hard to believe you can't get a girl in Mexico. And from what I understand, you don't seem like you're working. You seem like you got no job. Who knows how you're sustaining yourself, but should be able to get a girl in Mexico easily. You talk about these parties you've been to. I don't know when you went to the parties, probably throughout high school and your 20s, but I've never been invited to a party. And I think it takes a certain kind of guy to, because you say you're so ugly no one wants you. Why are they inviting you to the party? It's not something like you're going to look at the newspaper and say, oh, there's a party, I'll show up. No, you got to be invited by someone with clout, someone with social status, someone who's in. So if someone wants you to be there, you go. And I think that's more Chadriguez evidence. And I want to speak in general. I'm not accusing Babbling Loner of anything in particular. But the truth is, people have an incentive to lie. And you got a guy like Babbling Loner. He's in Mexico. He's not working. And he talks about how the dream is to get paid in USD and live in another country. Spend the local currency and take advantage of that conversion. And I think he sees YouTube as the vector to do that. So if you think you got a niche, you're going to tell doomer stories and get money from that, then you got an incentive to exaggerate who and what you are. So if you're a Chadriguez, you're going to say, oh, those girls were disgusting. I wish I was a virgin. I wish I never got laid. I wish I never met them. But in reality, were they really that disgusting? Or all of them? And how many lays is it? I think that a lot of people come to YouTube and they play a character. I'm not making any accusations, but I've seen it before. And you can't believe anything anyone says on the internet. They'll lie to your face about who they are, where they come from, sob stories. People have always been a victim of sob stories, people trying to take advantage, get them to feel sorry for them. In reality, there's nothing to feel sorry about. It's all just nonsense. And I'm not saying that's what Babbling Loner is, but I just want to know. How do you reconcile the slays with never having had a girlfriend? Because to me, I don't see how that's possible. And I'm hoping that in the future you can explain this, explain how that works. And if you do that, then if it makes sense, I guess, yeah, all the power to you. But we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep watching or not. It's not really the best content to immerse, especially if you don't know if it's real or not. But for background noise, for some good stories, you want to listen to something, and you're a guy who's never been on a date, something to listen to, something to relate to. But I wouldn't take any of it at face value. And I mean that literally and figuratively, because this guy could be a Chadriguez.